Everybody, we're going to talk about the prophetic word again today. Today we're going to talk about how some promises are fulfilled in our lives. Someone is praying about a promise that they know God is wanting to give them, something that they are definitely sure that it is a promise of God, and wondering why that particular promise has not been fulfilled in their life. And the Lord wants to let you know, and we'll see today in this prophetic word, that some promises, not all promises, some promises require a death of something. Some promises cannot coexist with something that you are maintaining in your life. And so there are some things that you are doing while praying for God to fulfill the promise and asking Him or wondering why it hasn't been fulfilled. And His word tells us, and this prophetic word will tell us today, what happens when some promises are given, and what needs to happen actually before that promise is given. So Hebrews chapter 9, verse 16 and 17 says, For where there is a testament, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. For a testament is in force after men are dead, since it has no power at all while the testator lives. So the last part, or the second verse, 17, Hebrews 9:17, is very key in this verse. For a testament is in force after men are dead, since it has no power at all while the testator lives. And some promises need to be looked at as like a will. In order for a will to take effect and affect the people that are in the will or in the promise or who it applies to, that person who wrote the promise must die. In the same way, there are some things in our lives that we've been praying about, and we know that God has promised us. But He's saying there's something in our lives that needs to go away. There's something in our lives that needs to stop being enabled and supported and fed. It needs to be dead, and we know it. Remember, Jesus said that if your hand offends you, cut it off. It's better to go into life maim and into the kingdom of God than to go whole into hellfire. And there's some things that are actually keeping people out of the kingdom that they are not separating themselves from. And when it comes to promises, there is a specific promise, as I said before, that you are asking. And the Lord is waiting till that which dies in you. Because, as we see in here, for a testament is in force after men are dead, since it has no power at all while the testator lives. See, there's a power that comes with some promises that God gives us. And there's a reason why the power's there. It's because the promise affects other areas of our life. It's not just a bigger wallet. It's not just a new car. It's not just a brand new job. It's not just material things. Sometimes promises come with long suffering. Some promises come with more love. You're loving more. You're more patient. You're more gentle and kind. But there's got to be something that's going to affect that power in that promise that's got to die. And that's the reason why that promise has not been implemented by God in your life. Let's go on to Genesis chapter 40, verse 9 and 13. This gives you an example. And I'll show you actually what the power does, that the power behind the promise does if we remove that which needs to die in order to receive and appreciate the promise. So it says in Genesis 49 to 13, Then the chief butler told his dream to Joseph and said to him, Behold, in my dream, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches. It was as though it budded. Its blossoms shot forth, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. Then Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him, This is the interpretation of it. 3 days, the 3 branches are 3 days. Now within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your place. And you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand according to the formal manner when you were his butler. And of course, the context is there's actually a baker and a butler, and they made the Pharaoh of that day angry, and they found themselves in prison with Joseph. And I encourage you to read Joseph's story in Genesis 40 and on. You'll be blessed by that. So they both had a dream. The butler and the baker had a dream. Both separate dreams, and they came to Joseph, and he interpreted the dream. And so he comes to the butler comes to him and tells him the dream, and he says that you were butler before, you're going to be butler again. So the whole focus, though, is in verse 13. Now within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your place, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand according to the formal manner when you were his butler. The power comes in for the promise, with the promise, to restore. The power comes in with the promise to restore. But there has got to be something in your life that has to die in order for the power or the promise, power, and restoration. Something has to die, not ignored, not put away somewhere to visit another day. Something has to die in our lives to see the promise, its power, and the purpose of its power. In this video, the purpose is restoration. So remember that. Where there is a testament, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. For a testament is in force after men are dead, since it has no power at all while the testator lives. God is waiting for you to put to death that which hinders the promise in your life. God bless you. Have a great day.